how much does your child learn at school about significant historical figures who were not white? How much do they discuss racism in society? Well, footballer Troy Deeney thinks the current curriculum is failing children from ethnic minorities because these topics aren't covered enough. He's written an open letter to the government calling for the teaching of history and experiences of Black, Asian and ethnic minority communities to be made mandatory in England's schools. I spoke to Troy earlier and began by asking him what inspired him to launch this campaign.
We did this survey through YouGov and, it was quite interesting. We had 12% of teachers right across the board come back and say they don't feel empowered to teach any lesson about diversity, which I think was quite disruptive and quite worrying, to be honest, because apparently they're the best teachers around, but they're not feeling that they can deliver a topic to any kids because they don't have the training.
And so what would you like to see instead happen?
I would like to see a sit down. With this open letter, we've managed to reach out to the education minister. He's up for a conversation, but I think we need to be in a place where we empower conversation. I think the world moving forward is in a difficult place. There's a lot of negativity around, and I think we need to show empathy, not only to children and to schools, but the teachers. The teachers have a really difficult job. And as a parent, I know I put my kids in their hands to teach them while I'm away at work, and we all do, and we take it for granted. But if they're saying they need help, let's listen to them and help them.
One of the problems they face, of course, is the curriculum is so packed. I mean, they have very little time and an awful lot to get through. And the risk is if you put something in, say, about a significant figure who's from a Black or ethnic minority, then you lose Charles Darwin or Isambard Kingdom Brunel or Isaac Newton. And those are important people, even though they weren't white men.
Of course they are, but it's nothing to do with taking away. This is the thing that everyone gets confused. It's nothing to do with taking away. You could do a maths lesson about algebra and say that comes from Egypt and that's then been developed in Greece. You can still have references along the way that show people and their heritage of where that's come from. I think what the biggest part and the big message I have to get across and stress is no one wants to take away from anything. It's about adding to.
Now, just last week, we saw the government putting out guidelines about impartiality in schools because there is this fear that we're entering a time when it's being politicised. There are all kinds of people trying to have a culture war over what our children are taught. Are you worried about being drawn into that kind of divisive debate?
Do you not think we have a situation now where kids are online a lot earlier? They're being exposed to a lot of information that may not necessarily be true as well in some capacities. So we have to find out where we can move with the times, understand that people are getting a lot of their information off social media now. And then there is a need and a want by teachers to teach things of diversity. That's perfect. I think we all have to move forward. My 7-year-old currently is learning about same-sex marriages and people can be parents with the same sex. That's fantastic because the world has moved forward. They need to learn about that. I'm not in a position to talk about that because unfortunately I haven't lived it, but we can do that in many other subjects.
Troy, sounds like the Education Secretary wants to speak to you. He's tweeted along those lines, so I hope that meeting happens soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.